welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus has been on voting as we quickly make our way to Election Day, coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. I just spoke with Claire Woodall Vogue. She's the executive director of the Milwaukee Election Commission, and we're now being joined by two people who are no strangers to this show. Pastor Greg Lewis, he's the executive director of Souls to the Polls, an organization committed to educating, registering, and transporting community residents to voting sites. And we're also being joined by Dr. Aronica Williams, who's the Chief Medical Officer at Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh,
I'm
great.
very well. Thank you both for being here with me today. And not only have Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated and Souls to the Polls collaborated to get residents in Milwaukee registered to vote, we're going to also talk about COVID-19 and how people can continue to protect themselves as they head to the polls or events such as the one you have scheduled. So Pastor Lewis, you serve as the assistant pastor at St. Gabriel's Church of God, and you're the founding president of Pastors United and Souls to the Polls. So first and foremost, talk about the importance of people getting out to vote in 2020.
Andrea, we know that Milwaukee is going to be one of the most important cities coming out to vote in the world. Whatever happens here will certainly change the nation and the world. So it's important, but not only that, it's important that we come out to vote just to make sure that we let people know that we're in the game, that we are active, that we are voters, so that people will not continue to take advantage of our communities the way they've been doing in the past. You know, people who vote, they get the attention. And we just really want to make sure that folks understand that. And when we get out and we talk about, you know, the Souls to the Polls slogan is we're an army of faith, the power of 100,000 souls to the polls. And when we come out in November and get that 100,000 to the polls, we want to keep them together, because we also want to talk about building a block of voters that work together to control the politics in our community, to have leverage for an agenda. And those kind of things are very important for a community that's really in dire straits, critical condition. These things are important to a community to help rebuild. And we think that it's time for us to start doing something for ourselves instead of letting things happen to ourselves.
All right. So I know in the past that the organization has been able to, you know, kind of go out into the churches and get people mobilized, also go door to door. But with COVID-19, I'm sure that has somewhat limited ways you can mobilize voters. So what are some of the things that you've been doing in order to get people registered and ready to have their voices be heard?
So now we have to do a lot on social media. Nothing has been, you know, eliminated. We work on all social media. And the telephone. The telephone is very important. You know, I'm calling over 500 faith leaders on the telephone, and we started doing that 3 months ago. And I still have calls to make all the way up until the day of early voting. So with that, the phone, social media, and when people have events that are safe, we want to be there to help folks with registration, with photo ID, with information about when, where, why, how. Where are the early voting places? Where are the early voting times? Where are the early voting locations? All those things have to be talked about now over the telephone or on social media, and places where people are gathering that are pretty safe places for us to be there and make sure that we keep people safe.
Yes, and speaking of safe events, Dr. Williams, Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated has collaborated with Souls to the Polls, as I mentioned earlier, for a special event that's coming up on October 5th. Tell us more about Come Alive on October 5.
Awesome. So Come Alive October 5 is an event that helps commemorate a historic voter registration drive that swept the first African-American mayor of Chicago into office. And so on October 5th in Milwaukee, with conjunction with Souls to the Polls, we're going to be having representatives from Souls to the Polls at both of our locations of Milwaukee Health Services to aid people with registering to vote, and also providing all of that pertinent information that Reverend Greg Lewis talked about. And so helping people register to vote, understanding early voting sites, really all about preparing them for that day in November when they go and they cast their votes, and also all of the abilities prior to November 3rd for them to vote, to help empower people and arm them with that necessary information.
Absolutely. There are a lot of options that we have, considering we're in the middle of a pandemic. So we definitely want people to understand all of the options. We talked about many of those in the last segment. And not only are you getting people to register on October 5th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at both the MLK Heritage Health Center as well as the Isaac Cox Heritage Health Center. One is at 2555 North MLK Drive, the other 8200 West Silver Spring Drive. Not only are you getting people registered and having them better understand all the options, but you also are giving them PPE safety kits and offering free screenings as well.
Absolutely. So the thing that makes this partnership so important is that not only are we trying to help prepare people to vote, we want to also arm them with the necessary protection. And so when you go to your primary care provider, really they talk a lot about prevention, right? How to prevent certain disease processes, how to prevent, cancer and getting screenings and those types of things. And so this is just one arm of prevention. And so we will be providing our normal health services. We do full spectrum primary care, but when you register to vote, we also are arming people with safety kits that include masks, hand sanitizers, a number of different things to help them stay safe while they're out in the community, but especially on election day.
Absolutely. And Pastor Lewis, we talk about many times the importance of staying safe through this pandemic, and Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated is also one of the federally qualified community health centers that's offering COVID-19 testing by appointment. I wanted to make sure we point that out. But Pastor Lewis, you've shared your experience of actually surviving the coronavirus, and you remind people that it's no joke, and it's very important for them to continue to protect themselves with social distancing and wearing those masks, correct?
Yeah, Andrea, you're absolutely right. And early March, not much was known about how to treat people with the virus as is known right now. And when I went to the doctor at first, and people need to understand this, they diagnosed me with bronchitis, and they gave me a 5-day pack of pills, and I took those pills, and after 5 days I was like, wow, I feel worse. And finally I called and they asked me to go get tested because I had all the symptoms. I couldn't breathe, I had the temperature, I had the aches and pains, I had all those things that were happening to those of us who have attracted that virus when you have the symptoms. And I couldn't eat. I didn't eat for 3 weeks. It was horrible. It was like a slow death. People need to understand how horrible this virus can be. It was like, I know what it is to die a slow death. So after about the 3rd week laying there, I was laying there one day, and I just told my wife, I said, baby, I'm dying. And I felt that night, if I had not made it to the hospital, I would have died in my sleep. I'm almost certain of that, because I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk from my bedroom to the kitchen, and my kitchen is right next to the bedroom. I couldn't walk. I couldn't, eat. A bottle of water felt like a 20-pound weight. I couldn't even pick it up. So it debilitates your body. Beware of that virus. Wear your mask, all those things. And when I was about to transition, I was blessed enough to have a friend who knew the head doctor at Frederick Memorial Hospital. And he called and he said, if I call in a favor, will you go to the hospital? My wife said he doesn't have a choice. So she called the doctor The doctor talked to her and talked to me. And when I gave back the phone to my wife, he told her to call 911. I got to the hospital. I went right to ICU, Andrea. And when I got there, I laid there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and the doctors came by. And they said to me, they said, if you don't do exactly what we tell you to do, you're going to die. I mean, I'm like, man, you're supposed to tell me you're going to help me. But and then the second doctor, it was 3 of them, said, if you become unconscious, do you want us to resuscitate you? I'm like, huh? She said, that's okay. You don't have to answer because we won't be able to resuscitate you. And the other doctor said, do you have all your business in order? Because we need to let the person who's going to take care of it. That's how dangerous that virus is. People, do not, I repeat myself, do not take that virus lightly, because if you get in the condition that I was in, and Andrea, I didn't know that I had pneumonia. It must have been walking pneumonia. I had walking pneumonia, bronchitis, I had a lung infection, and I'm diabetic. And the corona jumped on all of that. I was supposed to be gone, but God saved me.
Yes, and thank you for really just sharing that information. And quickly, we have run out of time. We're thankful to have you here with us, Pastor Lewis, to continue the hard work that you're doing in our community. And I speak for so many when I say thank you for that. And Dr. Williams, thank you for coming on and reminding everybody that you've got this great event going on October 5th at both locations of the Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated. We appreciate all the hard work you're doing in and for our community as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And keep in mind, you have many options when it comes to voting. There's drive-through early voting starting October 20th at Miller Park, in-person voting at Fiserv Forum, a number of early voting locations, including Midtown Center, starting October 20th. There are the absentee ballot boxes, so many options, and we encourage you to go to milwaukee.gov to get all the details, or give the Milwaukee Election Commission a call at 414-286-VOTE. Pastor Greg Lewis is the Executive Director of Souls to the Polls, and Dr. Aronica Williams, she's the Chief Medical Officer for Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated. Their event, Come Alive, October 5, will be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at both the King and Isaac Cox Heritage Health Centers. Go to mhsi.org for details, and also visit Soul to the Polls, mke.org, for more information on everything we've discussed. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again next week as we take another look at Our Issues Milwaukee.